Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. My coworkers and I have news alerts on USS New Jersey. Make sure you do USS New Jersey and not just New Jersey when you do news alerts. And there was a series of articles that came out today, maybe yesterday by the time you're watching this, that was very timely and took into account a skill set that I've been developing needlessly for decades. So I'm excited to get the chance to tell you about it, and it gives me a chance to pull a couple of my building block models off of the shelves here in the remote filming headquarters that we have. So these are a pair of Kobe 1/300 scale, so they're in the same scale models. They're made out of building blocks that are compatible with Legos. I'm just using them because they are the largest models of these two ships that I have, so it gives you a very visual indicator. The news article features a painting of the ship that has been alternatively labeled as either the German battleship Bismarck or the American battleship New Jersey. And since I've got models of a Bismarck-class battleship and an Iowa-class battleship here to talk about in the same scale, this gives us a great chance to talk about some key warship identification figures, particularly for battleships. This is important because modern battleships, the World War II built battleships, tended to share very, very distinctive features. And that's not just World War II era, but like the World War I era battleships all had very similar features and so on and so forth. But there are 4 things that you want to look at when you're identifying a ship. And these are going to be very broad terms, and they're going to be very obvious to most of you guys. But you want to look at the hull of the ship. You want to look at the guns of the ship. You want to look at the smokestacks of the ship and the superstructure. So the painting is clearly of the German battleship Bismarck. And there are a couple of features that help you tell that, but people keep saying, oh, no, it's New Jersey, it's New Jersey. I love that New Jersey is famous enough that that's a ship's name that you think of, but really these two ships don't look that much in common. They do share some very similar features, namely the superstructures are this like modern tower-style superstructure with the fire control directors on top, the larger bridge structure in front of it that's right behind the second turret. Like these are pretty common, and I can see why, especially lay people, would get those sorts of features confused. And that's one of those main features that is shared by most World War II era battleships. If you look over here at the model of Musashi I have, a Yamato class battleship, again, very similar, 2 forward turrets, an elongated bridge structure, and then a tower type superstructure with funnels behind it. Very similar for many of the ships during this time period. Behind me I've got Tirpitz, Scharnhorst, Gneisenau. They all share very similar features there. The other American fast battleships of the North Carolina, South Dakota class, of which I don't have models right now, also very similar. I can see why, especially going off of just that one feature, one would be confused. So superstructure is one of the most identifiable because it's one of the tallest. Next to that, you've got the funnels. These tell you a lot about the ship's speed. So typically, more funnels means more boilers sending their exhaust up, and more boilers means more speed. So a ship like New Jersey with 2 funnels, likely going to be faster than a ship like Bismarck or Musashi that only have 1 funnel. And Musashi's about 27, 28 knots, Bismarck's about 30, and Iowa-class battleship's about 33. So that is roughly 30, 32, and 35-ish miles per hour. So you can get a lot of information from that. But again, if you're not seeing both funnels, and this painting isn't of the entire Bismarck, you can see that the funnels are raked, which again is a modern battleship sort of thing, a World War II era battleship sort of thing. You don't see that same kind of rake on an older World War I built dreadnought like this Arizona kit behind me, or over there, I've got Warspite and Hood, which are both World War II constructions. They've got very flat funnel tops as opposed to these raked ones that help the exhaust gas go back this way. So again, very similar designs, especially to a layperson. It's so much easier when you got both sitting here in front of you to be like, oh yeah, those are two different ships, than when you're just looking at a couple of the features on one specific ship. Now, as you start to get to other features, it's a lot less similar. Iowa-class battleships, of course, have three-gun turrets. Bismarck-class battleships have four two-gun turrets. You can't really see how many barrels there are, especially in side views of the ship, so that's not so much of a thing. But you know, the turret arrangement, 2-1 versus 2-2, that should be a pretty obvious giveaway with these sorts of ships. And then by the time you get down to the hull, every battleship has a fairly unique hull, or I should say every class has a fairly unique hull design. These two ships are remarkably similar in length and width. The Iowa class is a little bit longer, the Bismarck class is a little bit wider. This painting, of course, is of the ship at sea, so you can't see any of the below water stuff. And again, it's a side profile, so you can't really see that Bismarck's kind of canoe shaped, where she comes to a point at both ends, whereas the Iowa class is really pointy at one end and then gets wide and stays thick all the way to the stern. But you can very easily see another feature of modern battleships. The bows are raked. That's very common for World War II era ships. They tend to be much straighter or even curved inwards instead of outwards on older battleships. Again, reference Arizona over here, reference Warspite down there, that are one war earlier than these ships in their design. So you can see Bismarck has what's called an Atlantic bow or clipper bow, where it's a pretty consistent curve throughout. The Iowa class has more of a unique compound curve going on that is entirely unique to them. And so that bow is a dead giveaway German ship versus specifically an Iowa class. As you look, Bismarck's is shared by very similar on Scharnhorst or other German ships. And there are generally national characteristics. One of those is the paint scheme. If you see pictures of an American battleship, they will tend to either be very, very dark colors of the Measure 21 camouflage, that is the all over dark blue. New Jersey wore that when she had the Black Dragon configuration. Or they're very light camouflages. So this depicts a ship in really the peacetime haze gray like you see New Jersey today. German battleships tend to come in the more medium side. They're never that real light, close to white color of haze gray, and they're not quite that blackish in color. And the painting depicted Bismarck in a very, very German way, namely similar to how this model looks. In this model, Bismarck is depicted as she would have looked during training in the Baltic Sea, as opposed to during the actual single mission that she did, Operation Rheinenberg or Runenberg, however you pronounce German. During that operation, she was painted overall this like fairly medium gray color. But most of the pictures we have of Bismarck, and therefore most of the artwork made of her posthumously, shows her with this zebra stripe pattern. That's known as Baltic camouflage. And it was pretty common for the Germans to use that kind of mid-war, so the time period when Bismarck is doing her working up prior to her operational deployment. In the picture, you could very easily see these fairly vertical, angular black and white slashes, the classic German Baltic camouflage scheme. And that's another dead giveaway that it is not an American battleship. That's clearly a German battleship, and clearly Bismarck, even though she has a sister ship, Tirpitz, as far as I know, never wore that camouflage scheme. By the time she's in commission in the areas where she's operating, this mid-war Baltic camouflage scheme is not used anymore. So that gives you a couple of ideas of how to identify ships. And if somebody says, oh, I think that's New Jersey, and you're like, no, that's Bismarck, and these are the reasons why. Things to point out are differences in the superstructure, differences in the smokestacks, both their shape and their number, differences in their guns. For this video, we talked about the main guns specifically because they're very obvious. But looking at secondary batteries as well, Iowa class has 10 5-inch guns in twin mounts. German battleships have 6 6-inch guns, 5.9-inch guns in twin mounts, and 8 twin-mounted 4.1-inch guns. So different numbers, different locations, different shaped gun mounts. And then, of course, your final indicator is the hull form itself. Because these nations are operating their ships in different oceans, they tend to have very different hull forms that are very characteristic of their nation. And so that helps us narrow it down. And of course, as part of looking at the hull, you also get the paint scheme. And sometimes it's as subtle as what color gray they used. But sometimes it's very obvious, like the camouflage scheme. Is it one of those wavy, sweeping patterns that the US or British prefer, or a solid pattern, or like this super distinctive German zebra stripe? So if you guys found this video valuable, especially given its relevance in the news lately, we'd be happy to do other videos in the future where we talk about different identifying features and compare New Jersey to other ships. Let us know in the comment section down below what you'd like to see. I'd also like to compare some of those features that are shared by many modern battleships and why these features become so prevalent in the 1930s and 40s when ships like Bismarck, Yamato, and New Jersey are being built, those battleships that we now think of today first and foremost. But again, let us know in the comments section down below, and let us know if you think that picture was of New Jersey or of Bismarck. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate your support. There's a link in the description below if you'd like to donate to support the museum. You can also support us by liking, sharing, subscribing so more people find about our museum and our channel. Thanks for watching.